Hey guys, today we're going to be learning about the media and how we should think about the media so that we are good informed citizens, and also the role that the media plays in the election process. So here we go. How to evaluate campaign material and the role of the media in the political process. So let's start off with a question. Who thinks the media plays a very important role in the political process? It is true that the media plays a very big role, and voters need to evaluate information presented in political campaigns to make reasoned choices among candidates. We get a whole lot of information, and we need to make sure that we're smart about it. The media plays an important role in the political process. So take a minute, look at this cartoon, and tell me what you think about it. It shows us, among other things, why we have to be very smart about all the information we get. So we get all that information sent in the mail and on TV and on our websites and all over the internet and the radio. So we need some strategies. So we're going to talk about strategies for evaluating campaign speeches, literature, and advertisements for accuracy. How should voters evaluate campaign advertising? Well, the very first thing is that we need to separate fact from fiction and opinions. So let's do some practice with that. Who says this is a fact or an opinion? Mayor Powers has more charisma than any mayor Powersland has ever had. If you selected opinion, you are correct. Who's to say if he has more charisma? That is definitely something that people could disagree about, that could have different opinions about. So that is an opinion. How about during the mayor's first term, a total of 12 new corporations moved to the city? Fact or opinion? That is correct. It is a fact. We can prove it or not prove it. We can do some research and find out if that indeed is the case. And since we can prove it or not prove it, it's a fact. Fact or opinion? New jobs created by these corporations are the most important jobs ever offered to the Powersland workforce. If you said opinion, that is correct. We can definitely have different ideas about what are the most important jobs ever offered to the workplace. That's something that's debatable, and so that is an opinion. How about this one? City tax revenue has risen by 9.6% since Mayor Powers took office. Fact or opinion? So if you chose fact, that is correct. That's something we can research. We can show whether or not it was true or not true. So that is a fact. Next up, Mayor Powers deserves re-election. Fact or opinion? If you chose opinion, that is correct. That's definitely something we could debate. People could think differently about, have different reasons for that. Okay, so how should voters evaluate campaign advertising? You need to detect bias. Bias can best be described as, what do you think? 1, showing both sides of a debate, or 2, showing only one side of an issue. If you chose showing only one side of an issue, that's correct. District 907 has added girls basketball to its roster of varsity sports. Student interest has prompted the move. The program is expected to involve at least 70 students in each school in the district. Is this statement biased or not biased? It's pretty much not biased. With all the things in there are facts, it doesn't seem to have any kind of slant to it. It might be omitting some information that could be showing bias, what they're choosing to say instead of not saying, but based on what we know, it seems pretty unbiased. We'd have to check another source to see if there's anything missing and that omission could be biased. How about this one? Taxpayers in District 907 can look forward to higher property taxes next spring. The school board expects to hire new coaches to handle the needs of the new sports program. The sensible proposal to eliminate school sports has not yet been discussed in at least 5 years. Is this statement biased or not biased? If you chose biased, you're correct. There seems to be definitely a slant against the sports in the way that this information is presented. The next thing we need to do is evaluate the source. So what is the best source in the list if you are looking for factual information? A personal web page, an encyclopedia, or a friend's blog? What do you think? Yes, probably an encyclopedia. If that's what you chose, encyclopedia was correct. Personal web page, they're just putting up what they want to or not want to. And even if there are facts on the page, you have to consider whether or not they're putting up all the facts or if they're just putting up the facts that support their argument. Same thing with a blog. That's not ever a good source unless you can really verify the information. The next thing is identifying propaganda. What is propaganda? Certain ideas that may involve misleading messages designed to manipulate people. I know you guys learn about propaganda in 7th grade, and I think usually right around the World War I unit. And I remember thinking that it makes it seem like that's just a historical event, but actually there's still propaganda today. It's all over the place, and we need to be aware of it, especially around campaign times, but at other times too, that there are a lot of media outlets and a lot of salespeople, but also politicians that are trying to manipulate us. They're trying to manipulate our votes. They're trying to manipulate our involvement in the political system, and they're trying to manipulate how we spend our money. Lots of propaganda still around today. Okay, so watch the commercial. You'll be asked to identify the types of propaganda found in the commercial. We're actually not going to do that during this video, so I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, let's review. To evaluate advertisements accurately, people must 1. Use the scientific method, 2. Separate fact from opinion, 3. Read the newspaper every day, 4. Watch many news programs. What do you think? So though there might be some benefits to all 4 of these things, with advertisements and political advertisements in particular, it's very important to separate fact from opinion. So 2 was correct. All right, so how does this affect the elections? We have got the elections coming up, and we have had lots of different, lots of propaganda and lots of advertisements all around us, lots of things in the media, and that can affect things. The media is a very powerful way that things get affected, that elections are affected. So let's look at some of the ways that that happens. First of all, what is mass media? There's a couple definitions to it. It's a mechanism of mass communication. It is to be considered mass media. It must communicate broadly to a large group of people. For example, a letter or email you send a friend is private communication and would not be considered mass media. So the basic idea is that the same message is going out to lots of people at the same time. So if you send out a flyer in the mail to lots of people at the same time, that's kind of mass media. Whereas if I just write a friend and I say, hey, this is who I'm voting for and why, that's private communication. So which of the following is not an example of mass media? 1, television, 2, radio, 3, books, 4, community meetings. What do you think? If you chose community meetings, that's the correct answer. Community meetings have a lot of private conversation, and they can be really important, but it's not the same information going out to lots of people at the same time. Whereas television, radio, and books, all that kind of information is going out to, the same information is going out to lots of people at the same time. All right. So one thing that the media does that affects elections is it identifies candidates. So one of the times that Barack Obama was running, he was running against Senator McCain. And the way the media does this is that it will have articles about these candidates. So let's say it's a Fairfax County election, and they're, Miss Dombrow and Miss Begg and Miss Mayberry and Miss Grouse are all running for office. But they start to have the newspaper starts to run stories about Miss Grouse and Miss Mayberry and talking about them and what they're going to do. And they don't have any any articles about Miss Dombrow or Miss Begg, they're kind of identifying Miss Grouse and Miss Mayberry as the forerunners in the election, and the fact that they are putting their name in print and that they're talking about them gives them a better chance of winning the election. So the fact that they even just mention a candidate's name gives them free advertising and makes the public take them more seriously. Miss Dombrow and Miss Begg might actually be the better candidates. Maybe they have better ideas for what would help in Fairfax County. But the media has just played a powerful influence by naming Miss Grouse and naming Miss Mayberry, just by putting their name in print. They also emphasize selected issues. There's so many problems that are happening all over the world all the time. And the media, just because, newspaper only has so much space, a website only has so much space that or time to produce information, and news programs on TV only have so much time. They have to make some choices. The iCivics article that we read calls this being a gatekeeper. And being a gatekeeper is the same as emphasizing selected issues, that they choose what to put in print. One of the big examples is a few years back, there was a really, really big Ebola outbreak in Africa, and the news was covering that all the time, and they were choosing to emphasize that. But actually, many, many more people die of malaria every year in Africa than died during the entire Ebola outbreak. But the newspaper chose to emphasize the issue of Ebola, and they were the gatekeeper of not putting out that information about malaria. Now, there's lots of reasons that they do that. We also looked at the iCivics about that they're businesses, they're for profit in this country, and so the Ebola outbreak was kind of more dramatic. It captured people's attention. People were afraid of it, so they wanted to learn more. So it was selling more newspapers because, or more advertisements on the TV show or advertisements on the website. So when they put things out there that capture people's imaginations, they profit from it. But at the same time, that gives them a very, very powerful role, that they can decide in some ways what the people are talking about, what the public agenda is. By putting things out there about Ebola, all of a sudden there was a lot more emphasis on finding a cure for Ebola and preventing Ebola. And that became a much more big part of public policy because the media was emphasizing it. So that gives them a very, very powerful role. Another powerful role that the media has is writing editorials and creating political cartoons. In our country, we have freedom of the press, where people are allowed to criticize the government without repercussion, and they're allowed to put their ideas in print, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But because the mass media gets that message out to lots of people at the same time, that gives them a very powerful role in elections, that they can put their message out there to so many people at the same time. So let's look at this political cartoon and tell me what you think about it. Another really very powerful role is that they do broadcast different points of view. And this is sometimes the best place to look for information about campaigns, is an article that would say what one candidate thinks and also what another candidate thinks. It gives you a chance to compare. Sometimes you have to look at different newspapers or look at different sources in order to get both points of view. But it is something that the media can do, and it's really great when they do, is to say the different sides of an issue. So, what do you think? The media plays a very important role in the political process of elections. Most importantly, they help, 1, to select candidates that will be popular with voters, 2, highlight campaign issues and community concerns, 3, by broadcasting their preferred points of view, 4, by broadcasting jokes or publishing cartoons. What do you think? So in some ways, you could make a case for all of this. I think the one we just talked about was that they highlight campaign issues and community concerns. They do, as you said, as we said earlier, identify candidates and the ones that they think that they will be popular. They do broadcast their point of view in op-eds and political cartoons, and they do put jokes out there, but in terms of elections, probably highlighting those issues and selecting candidates are the more important ones. Great. Based on what we just heard, explain or describe this cartoon. So what is important to understand about this today? We're going to continue looking at this as a year-long theme, but what do we want to remember about this today? One thing, hopefully you wrote